Welcome to another recap video here on what transpired today. And what we're going to do is jump right into it with Coinbase. And we're going to break the video down in three parts. First, Coinbase and what happened to the Bitcoin miners and the Bitcoin stocks today, what to do about it tomorrow. We're going to go through key levels that are actionable. I want to go through a review of stocks that moved today that I think have potential for tomorrow. And I also added 3 stocks to the newsletter, and I'm going to go over them briefly as well. But there's a lot to cover, so let's just jump into it. As always, please subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. Once we get to 1,000, I'll be able to start doing these live and taking questions. So this is what happened today with Coinbase. Okay, this is a very simple 1-minute chart. And I blew it up, and I just marked the key areas so that people can actually see them if they're on their mobile phone. But here's your opening bar right here on the 1 minute. We just started ticking up. You start seeing all the buying. And for those that watch that candlestick video, they know this pattern. This is an evening star pattern, right? Here's your green, here's your doji, and then you broke here. So there was your clear sell signal off the 1 minute. I mean, this you really couldn't have nailed this any better if you were looking at those patterns. And I'll link that video at the end of this. But, I mean, it's pretty freaking clear what that is. And from there, you know, and you don't really know where support is, and this is direct listing, so there's no investment bank backstopping it. Binance was going to, but they walked away, and we'll get into that in a minute. But once you broke this 381 level, right, that was it. So 381 flipped from support to resistance. 381 is a resistance level. Traded down. 362, we tried to hold. Looked like it might hold, and then boom, that was it. Broke it. And then when this started really selling off, Binance came out and said that they were supposed to make a token for it, and now they can't because of the volatility of the stock. I don't understand how they didn't think there was going to be volatility on a direct listing. It's somewhat concerning. You know, it's just silly. I mean, obviously there's going to be volatility the first day. So just poor planning on their part. But what we did was we traded all the way down to 38 or 328. And we have you had a nice little bump here. You traded up to this 343 level where it's actually trading after hours right now. And we'll discuss how to trade after hours and pre on this right now as soon as we get into it. But see this wedge? You have to watch this wedge and this 334 line. So if you're looking to try and get into this tomorrow, the easiest way to do this is this 334 line on the 1 minute. And yes, you need to use a 1 minute right now. It's been trading for a total of 2.5 hours. So you really can't be looking at a 15-minute or an hourly. You just don't have enough data. So until you get like a full 8 hours of trading, yeah, you have to look at like a 1 minute, maybe a 5-minute chart to get an understanding of the pattern. So 334 is where you're going to look. And 362 would probably be the next level. People are saying, look at VWAP. VWAP's 2.5 hours long. It's telling you nothing. So 381 would be the next level through it. This is where it's really going to run into an issue at 381 because this is where you have your buyers. This is where they open the stock. And you see how it reacts to that. So that's not great news that this rejected here. So let's see how it plays out. But there are your key levels for it. As far as those that are trading it after hours or pre-market, I think it's up again to 343 after hours. I'm just going to tell you to be really careful. That's not institutional buying. That is retail buying. It is mom and pop trying to get, quote, a deal. You just need to be careful because where you have to look at is you have to look at the opening price. I won't be trading this until it opens tomorrow. And I'll be watching the same exact line I'm giving you, and I'll be looking at the RSI on it and looking for particular patterns, but I am not touching it until the actual market's open so I can see what the true volume is and what's coming in. This could very well gap down tomorrow morning as well as it could gap up. So you're just really rolling the dice. You need a game plan. My advice is to wait till it opens tomorrow. These stocks got absolutely hammered and keep some powder dry. I think tomorrow is going to be a great trading day. So I did call this on yesterday that we were going to see these miners really come in. And I want to just walk through why I said that. For those that follow me on Twitter, I was asked a lot about the buying of miners on the Coinbase offering. I got a ton of messages on it. all three of those stocks yesterday hit resistance levels and bounced right off of them. They just couldn't get through them. So that was a clear sign. And I reviewed that in last night's video. I do these daily recap videos and game plans for tomorrow. So I'm not going to get into everything I went over, but I was pretty clear today where I was shorting, Riot, Mara, SI. I was shorting the gambit. And we'll get into where I'm going to look at those charts in a minute and then give actionable areas that you should be looking at tomorrow as well, because I think that you can play those. I think they're going to be a huge mover tomorrow, substantial movers, long and short. And it just depends how they open. And we're going to get into that. But just to stress this, when you want to buy something and it's like Bitcoin, that's great. I'm long Bitcoin. You buy Bitcoin. If you want to buy the miners because they mine Bitcoin, that's great. But you don't buy the miners because of Bitcoin. There's a distinction that you have to just be aware of, okay? And this is not my idea. If you thought oil was going up, you buy oil. You don't buy the Exxons of the world or the refineries. If you think the refineries are a good business, you buy the refineries. This is not my idea. I got this out of a book over 20 years ago, reading George Soros' books. And if you haven't read any of his books, start reading them. He's absolutely crushed everybody's returns over a 30, 40 year period. It's not even close. But he's right. Just buy Bitcoin. You open up an account and buy it. It's simple. So, and then I was asked about how they were going to perform. This is exactly what we saw today happen. And I just outlined it yesterday, and I just want to hammer it home. And then we're going to get entry and exits for tomorrow. When a hot offering like this comes out, there's only so much money. That buying today, that was not institutions stepping up going, I got to get in Coinbase. They've had every opportunity to get in Coinbase through private equity raises and everything else, and all kinds of classes of free shares that you'll never see. They don't need to wait. Fidelity doesn't need to wait for this stock to open. They're already in it. Okay? They're the ones that are selling. So you have to think about it like that and how that's going to work. And just understand that part of it a little bit better. So I was just pointing out that investors will sell the miners and buy the new hot symbol. This can lead to sell in the news event. That's exactly what you saw. All right, so that's it. Let's get into it. So this is Riot, okay? And we can see what happened here today. And I'm going to zoom in. That was pretty popular yesterday. People looking at this on their phones, their mobiles. So just to put this back here, this is Riot. So very, very clearly off the open today on Twitter, I was pretty vocal about it. I went short. And it's rare that I'll even explain that because I don't really want people following shorts because they can get run over. But this was very clear what was going to happen. And when you overgap like this, it is a clear sign. What's an overgap? Okay, I close on this line and I didn't gap here, right? I didn't gap right here. Let's put an arrow there. People seem to dig the arrows. I didn't gap right here. I gapped up here. Okay, so I gapped about 4 or 5 points. This is called an overgap. Okay, you saw this with NNOX when that opened up and then just got annihilated. When you overgap like this, you're going to get selling pressure because the people that are in it, and especially the people that have been in it from here, they're gone. And that's exactly what happened. And then the news didn't help either. But so we sold straight down. Now, we went through this line, we went through this trend line, we went through the top of the rising, we went through the 21 day, not to mention the 5 and the 8, which I can put in, but it's pretty clear that we went through the 5 and the 8 if we're through the 21 and the 50 on the downside. So, and we closed right on the 50 and on this line. So now, this was the trade. Now what do we do? The game plan for tomorrow to me is very simple. I will not be touching these pre and post. I think it's a mistake because the institutions that are in some of these companies, they're not moving pre and post. They're going to move when we open. That opening price on these 3 stocks that we're about to go over is going to be very significant. So I'm going to just give you points that I'm going to look for. I'm going to look for it if we get up into this range off the open, whether the opening price or within the first 10 to 15 minutes if we get up here. If we're up in this range, I'm shorting the stock. okay? My hope is that these gap down tomorrow. They break all the way down to a level, a huge under gap, just like we had the over gap here. I'm looking for the inverse where they open it up and they gap it down and then it just goes. That's what I'm looking for tomorrow. I don't know if we get it. Now, worst case scenario, if this opens flat here, I just have to avoid it because I don't have a clear signal. And I don't want to just just gap to that 49.5. I want to look for a level like 45, something like that. I want a 4 or 5 point gap down. I don't know if we're going to get it or not. There's a lot of pressure here, and when people start seeing their account balances today and they get their margin calls, it's a possibility off the open that this could be nasty. But we just don't know, so you have to sit and watch and wait. So that's how I'm going to play Riot. SI, very clearly. I went through this pattern yesterday. I'm just going to point it out again. Okay, you see the top of this bar, and we're going to blow this up. Okay, let me just put this back here. Let's blow this up. See the top of this bar here, and how we hit this level, same level that we hit here. See how it's red, and this wick looks like a horn? See this wick where it broke it and then reversed? So here's what happened. We opened, tried to get over it, couldn't, came even lower. We opened, tried to get over it, couldn't, we went down even lower. This is massive rejection. And I call the pattern devil horns. I think that there's got to be an advanced candlestick. There's 42 of them. There's got to be an advanced candlestick. It's got a real name for it. But when you see this is a clear indication that you're going to have a problem. Now, take that into account with the fact that you had the rising wedge right here and you snapped and broke it. That was it. It was a wrap. And then you started just running through these levels to the downside. I mean, you broke, just to kind of get an understanding of what transpired today, you broke two different downward trend wedges, you broke a major support, and you broke the 21-day as well as the 5 and the 8. This is not mom and pop selling. This is institutions on SI getting out. They're more in this SI than they are in Riot and Mara, and that's because the potential of this is even greater. But if we break this line tomorrow, if we open close to this line, you can't do anything. You have to watch and see. I'm not crazy about this little bounce that we got at the end of the day. I would rather that we didn't bounce and just sold down. But we're going to have to see how this plays out tomorrow. Now, your first key level here on this one is going to be your 21-day. This usually respects the 21-day, so we have to watch that. But you're really going to be looking at that level. You're going to be looking at 147 is really where you're going to watch that. That would get you in the crux of this line as well and keep us in this wedge. So if we get to that 147 and hold, that's great. Anything gapping up towards this 152, we're probably not going to clear that 152, and that's just my opinion. We'll see what happens. But I will be shorting anything that's up to that 152 level. What I want to see is a gap down to at least like 135, something like that. Something that flushes everybody out and to a level that they can't believe. Opening flat during the day is just going to be the worst case scenario on all three of these. So if you look at Mara, and we're just going to get through the levels, out of all of these stocks, this one held up the best. Why do I say that? It didn't even get to the 50-day. It got to the 21-day and basically closed on it. So out of the three, the one with the strongest relative strength right now, and you may want to note that or write it down, because if you're looking at going long, right, you're not going to want the one that has the least relative strength. You're going to want the one that's got the strongest relative strength. Out of those three, Mara it has the highest relative strength in its action for today. So you can see this. Broke, boom. What do we want? I'd like it to gap to the 50. If it does get to that 38, 39 level off the open, I would be looking at being a buyer. Anything else, this one's going to be a little tougher, and we can throw the 5 and the 8 in here and just get into it. This opening near this 49.65 level, if we get up to here, I would be looking at putting a short on. I would not be looking at buying it. So that's it in a nutshell with those three. And they're the key levels that I would be looking at. And I'm just going to stress this. You don't need to be buying pre and post to try to, quote, get ahead. Watch where these open tomorrow and set an actual game plan up like we just walked through with these actionable levels. And you'll be surprised how much better you do with an actual game plan. So let's start getting into the stocks I was asked to look at for the day. And then I want to go through these 3 stocks that I added to the news list. And we're going to blow through this really quickly because I have a ton of work to do on charts this evening. So BNGO I added yesterday, and it did not work, and I got out right off the open as soon as I took out that lower low. I just put a starter trade on because they were having a conference, and I thought that that data that came out might be actionable. It indeed was not actionable, and I took a little shot without having a pattern, and it just didn't work. It happens. I mean, it was a 20-cent loss, but the way that this is set up, and we can throw in the indicators right now, is this is just nasty. I mean, we can't get above the 5-day. You can't, drill into this. You really can't even get above the 5-day on this. So this is not something that you want to go near. We closed at the low of the day. I mean, to me, it looks like we're heading, and we talk about this dreaded H. Let's get rid of the indicators now. See this H? Right? So it looks to me like we're going here. It looks to me like we're going to $5. So I would not touch this if I was long this. If you're not willing to go here, then you need to move on because it's very clear that this is coming in and that we're going to continue to see selling and pressure on that name. BABA is a stock that I don't play with, and the only reason why is because I never know with their political issues what the heck is even going to happen. So let's get into this. And as always, if you find this helpful, please click the like button. I'm trying to get in front of as many people as humanly possible. Show them what it really takes to be successful trading. You see, this is not the best thing in the world. I mean, here's the biggest issue with trading BABA, right? Look at the gap risk. Every single time, you just don't know where you're going to open. So if you're looking longer term, I get it. I like that the 5 and the 8 have crossed, right? We've gone through those a million times. When the 5 and the 8 cross, it's great. Now I got the 8 crossing the 21. People are going to love that because they're going to say, oh, the 8's crossing the 21, and that's a trigger for a lot of people. People are going to love this volume. Look, you have a tremendous overhead resistance here, like tremendous. And while we're not at the top of the range, I'm just going to walk through this pattern so that you understand the power of these patterns, okay? So we're going to really zoom in on this so you understand what I'm about to show you. So you see how you can't break the 50 right here? This is that candle. This is I'll say variation because I'm not at the top. But this is basically an evening star, right? I popped up above it. I undercut right here. To me, this is going to fill the gap. Now, does it fill the gap and go higher? It very well could. I mean, they don't always work. But the point is, why are you getting involved with this at this level? I mean, you have so much resistance. You got this 52 level that you have not gotten above since February. The 50-day can't get above. You have this downward trend that you've been in since October of last year that you cannot break above. What's your hurry here? So, to me, I would just look for greener pastures. I would not be a buyer here, and I would expect more weakness in this name. You just don't know. I mean, you really don't know. Any news could come out, but it's not something I would be involved with. So, the CRSR we've looked at a couple times. I gave a level that I would be looking to buy this at, this 35.81. Look, we're not there. We've undercut this, and it's beautiful, but we're just not there. And the way that it's acting, it's not acting great. So I would just wait. I mean, it's basing, but just wait for it to break that level. A lot of these breakouts, they're not working. They're far and few between. It's all the large cap stocks. I mentioned this in the newsletter the other night. I mean, they're really the only ones that are moving. So here's Nvidia, and I was asked to cover this. So we've been in this since 5:40 in the newsletter, and if you don't get the newsletter, it's free. It comes out 3 times a week. Just click on the description or in the bio, and there'll be a link for it. I'll make sure there's a link for it. So let's just go through what's going on here. We don't need this anymore. We were up close to 100 points. I think that's why I had this up here. Remove this segment line, put this over here. We was talking about this being an 8-month base. Look, drop this down here. Okay, Look, let's get right into this. Here's your issue, okay? And this is why today I said if you haven't trimmed yet, consider trimming, okay? You have this upper channel that we've hit and we've rejected. Not only did we hit and we reject, we came in down here. Now, this is not a bearish engulfing. This could base here and then break out on a high tight flag, right? Here's your flagpole. And all it's doing is flagging. I mean, it didn't break this low. You know, it's not. It doesn't look awful. But if you're in at this price, where we are at like 540, you know, I don't really want to lose. You know, I don't really want to lose. It's up to you how much you want to risk and how much you want to trim, right? But, you know, I'm up 86 points. Do I really want to get rid of 86 points on a stock in this kind of market, you know, where you're just trying to lock stuff in? No. So that's why I mentioned today that you might want to trim up here. Realistically, this could keep going. This is huge volume, and that's why I didn't say sell the whole thing. And you have a possible high tight flag here on a resistance line that could break out and go higher. So there's not really anything that you need to do here. I'm just saying that if you were in this already, from where we get it from the newsletter, it's time to consider trimming. And even if you want to use a lower low tomorrow as that too, that's fine. You make a lower low, you can go to 574. Do I add here? No, I wait for this flag to form and then break out, and that's where I add. So let's do Tesla next. Okay, so let's just get right into this. With Tesla, you know, you're really seeing to me, it took a while to load in there, didn't it? So to me, when you look at Tesla, look, this was just a rest day. I actually thought of buying it at 748. I actually mentioned it on Twitter. I think it looks great. I mean, this is not something that you have to be running out of. Am I crazy about this bar? No. I'm above all my moving averages. I just had a huge move. I mean, look at the move that this just had from the bottom, right? You're up 45% from the bottom in a month, right? I mean, like, that's a big move. So this is not something that you need to, a month and a half, but this is not something you need to panic because this happened. I would see if we can get back to the 700, you know, or even if you can get to the bottom of the 50-day, and then add to it 718. So they're the levels that I would be looking at, and this is Tesla, and I'll just zoom in again. So you can see that's what I would be looking for. I'd be looking for this to trade down to the 718, hopefully, or 701, and then get involved with it. This looks excellent, and it's definitely something that should be on everyone's radar. I've been preaching these these lower price stocks just don't seem to be working. So I would focus on going to something that is a little larger cap, and I think that looks great for whoever was asking about it. W's been the same thing forever, and we don't like to spend a lot of time on it. I'll throw this up here. You just cannot break this level. We don't even really need the indicators, do we? We just cannot get above 349. I would not touch it until I get above 349. It's really that simple. I mean, it just bonk. Just can't do it. I mean, this is even like one of those mini devil horn positions I keep talking about. So I wouldn't go near it. I'd wait for 349, and then you can look at it. Fuel cell, let's throw in the indicators. I mean, there's a possible, and let's really get into this, there's a possible double bottom forming here, maybe. Let's take a look at it. So you've undercut, yeah, but you didn't close above it. So really what you're looking for a double bottom is this. Let's get right in there. So you can see this line here, right? This 1145. See where you closed? Yeah. You need to flip 1145, and then this bottom is lower than this bottom. That confirmation is called a double bottom. It's a real double bottom. And then maybe we could start moving from there. Until that transpires, let's get rid of all those indicators. There's really no need for them. And let's just look at the price here. And what you can see is there's really no reason to jump into this. I mean, this just is going to keep selling down. So, let it prove itself. The first step in proving itself is 1145. Planter, the stock that just loves breaking people's hearts, right? I mean, how many times do we think it's going to go and then it doesn't? Look, I really thought like you could see it today. You could blame it on the market. You can blame whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Some stocks were up today, some were down. This is pretty nasty reversal. And if you put the indicators in, because they're important here, you got to the 50-day and you reject it. It's not what you want to see. So right now, what I would do here, all that is from a trade from before. What I would do here is not go near this until at least I get above this wick, which is 26.36. I would not touch this. To me, this looks like it's setting up for another down day flush before it sets up again. What I would say is interesting is all these rallies down now are being met by buying. So we do have a pattern here that you could see. Let me just show you this. You could look at this, right? Anytime you're below this 22.45, you just bounce right back through it. And if you really look at it that way, right? I mean, anytime you're through this line, it doesn't stay below that. So there's somebody down there accumulating it. So if you get to that level, it's 22. Let's get rid of this for a moment and pull this back so I know exactly where I just told you guys. So if you get to 22.36, you get to that line, 22.36, and you break below it, and you're trying to buy it while it's basing, which is what it's doing, right? 27 to 22, that's where you can buy it. But you need a little pattern or, use your setups. COUR, I don't think we've ever done this one before. Got a couple more, Fuda, Tiger, and then we're going to run through the three that I put on the buy list today, and I still like all three of them. I think people need to be looking at it. I really don't have enough data on this one, but let's rock and roll. So this is COUR. Then we'll go here with this so that you can put this up. I'll put this down here, and let's just open this up a little bit. All right, so really, it's a newer issue. And what you're seeing here, you can see this level. This 52 level is really important. See how you can't get above it? So you're going to have to watch that. And people, when you start seeing how I draw lines, it takes time to learn this. I've been doing this over 20 years, so don't get frustrated if you don't see stuff right away. So, and you can see, right? Okay, and then you broke it. Yeah, that's not, it's not great, right? So what you need to have happen here is you need to get above this 49.09. Now we could throw the indicators in on the 15-minute, but it's pretty irrelevant. The only thing that is interesting, and I'm glad that I did throw them in. See this? This is nice. You have a nice green volume bar here, and you really have had that at the end of the days, which is good. That's a good sign. What I would be looking for if I really wanted to own this, and I see so much overhead resistance like here and here that I don't. But if I did want to own this, if this was one that I wanted to play, get over 49.10 on a big volume spike like this, and I could see someone taking a shot with it. So Fudu, it's interesting. Everybody keeps telling me that it broke out. It broke out. It definitely did not break out. And let's just get into this. I've been doing technicals for a long time, so I have an understanding of them, right? I've been doing it professionally for 20 years, trading. So I'm just going to say this, there are support and resistance lines. If you don't break them, you didn't break out. Because you broke a 3-day wedge is not a breakout, okay? Unless you're trying to pick up $2, $3, it's not a breakout. So, because you can't even trade it until you break above the wick, technically. So what's the point? Look, with something like this is really very simple. You need to get above this level. We've been talking about this level, okay? 160. You can't get above it. You cannot get above it. So until you get above this level, okay, anything that you're looking at is a short-term trade. Now you have the 5 and the 8 that you're below still. This 21's curling up. and we're respecting the 50, so it's great. I don't know that there's any major downside here, and I like how we're respecting this downward trend line. We flipped that from support to resistance, right? You should be able to see that. Let me just open that up a little bit. See how that's flipped, and now when you get near it, what happens? Right? Look. So I like this. I don't think you need to buy it yet. I mean, I would rather pay up for it. I'd rather pay up and know that I'm right when it closes over here. And you can see how many times it has not closed over here, over the 160 level, since March. So I would just watch and wait. I don't think you have to be there yet. So Tiger, everybody got excited today. Look, I mean, honestly, even at this position, I looked at my account. I have we got stopped out of this on the newsletter. I have a small short position in this right now, and it's nothing crazy, but how many times is this going to get over this 20 and fail? And it did it again today. So, right now it's showing that it's above it, but that's probably post-market data. If it gets over it, closes above it, that's great. It did not close above this 20. So I don't care what it's doing pre and post. I'm not saying not to trade pre and post. I'm saying that it doesn't affect the chart when you truly look at the chart, right? So I would love for this to break out and run and love to be long it again. But at this level, when the markets are tanking, to me, the ones that are going to get hit are the ones that are going to reject again. So that was why I did it. And I think you can just get back to $18. It's not the end of the world. I just don't see it going anywhere. What would make me think that it's going somewhere? It's got to close above this 2009 level, and we just haven't done it yet. And and it's been a long time now. We just keep hitting it and failing. Now this is getting tighter. The 5 and the 8 are pointing up. The 21 has been flipped, right? See how this was resistance here? And let's blow this up. See, this was resistance here, and it's no longer resistance. It flipped to support, and now we've hit it and bounced off of it. I mean, that's great. I mean, that's really a very positive sign, here, that we've hit this and bounced right off of it. That's good stuff. But until we close above that, we've just been burnt way too many times. And I'm just going to point this out again for the people that did the candlestick chart pattern. See this down here, right? Bonk, bonk, and then we broke above this. For those that recognize that pattern, that's how you could have picked off this being at the low by looking at that Morningstar chart. I'll link that again for the people that haven't watched it yet. But I would start looking at these patterns and see if you can recognize them during the day or at night. Just get in the habit of doing that, getting better and better at it. GRWG, let's get rid of that. I was asked how I came up with my pivot point on that. Let's get rid of, I guess we can leave it. So I was showing here a overhead. Hold on one second. All right, so let me get rid of that, and let me get rid of that. And let's get rid of this for a minute. I can put them back, but let me just get into this. So people always say, why do I want to see the close? This is why I want to see the close. So everybody was waiting for this to trigger. They bought it. What transpired, they're in it. And then it gaps and it goes through the open all the way down. And now we roll down past the 50, the 21. And now we're in like a little bit of a storm here, right? And I was showing this pattern being, this is the small left shoulder. Pardon me. Get this back right here. There we go. Okay. This is the small left shoulder. This was the head. This was the right shoulder. So you had a little reversal pattern there, right? Now you can see this too. So you had a little inverse head and shoulders, but you could come to this line and hold, maybe. I don't know. Right now, below the way that we're below those averages, I'm not crazy about this, And also, let's remove this. Let's remove all these triangles now. So also, I opened at the high. Right? Like this is as bearish of a bar as you can get. I opened at the high. I closed at the low. It's constant selling all day. Usually these do not reverse. When they do reverse, they're called bullish engulfings. If it gaps below it and then goes up. But I don't see that in this chart. It looks like you're going to have another bad day tomorrow possibly. So let's see how it opens and go from there. But I would not buy this. I would wait to buy this till it closes over the 21 and the 50-day and then go from there. So NNOX. So, I mean, look, we walk through this on Twitter. I mean, I said it when we overgapped, right? This is exactly what I was talking about today with, Riot. And this is actually way worse, right? I mean, you gapped here and you closed at the low. That was it. I mean, you knew that you had a short. And you went, but once you went below, I mean, there's a couple other trades here, right? So once you went below that number, you were hit. I mean, you were just done. And once you broke the bottom of that, you knew that there was another trade to get here. Then you rolled back into this downward trend. There's another trade there. You can't get above it. You see that wick? Maybe you can't see that on NNOX. See that wick through it, but you couldn't get back over it, and then you took out a low. There's another trade there. So understanding these patterns, you can see them, right? Now, this, right, you could say that this is starting to form like a little Morningstar pattern, right, here, but it rejected today because we didn't get above this line. So it's not something that you really want to play with. I would not be a buyer of this. I find the way that we sold off, it's one thing to sell down on good news because people want to take profits. It's another thing to implode, and that's what we did here. So I don't understand the technology. I thought it was, from what I read, I thought it was great. I'm not a medical doctor. You're down 27 points or 42% on the stock in a week. So that's not really a ringing endorsement that this news was perceived well. And, that's usually, considering the name too, and you see the volume, that's institutional selling. I don't want to be in front of that. RBLX, we are in this, and we were doing great yesterday, and then we just got stopped out today. But let's get into this. This is pretty nasty stuff. We opened here and closed here. It's not a bullish, or it's not a bearish engulfing because we didn't encapsulate the open and the close of the previous green bar. We hit 74.83. And this is where we closed. To me, this is not good news. What I think is going to happen with it now, it's not going to run right back up. We're going to trade around in this bar. Now, if we close below this 74.83 level, you need to get out. That would be my stop if I was still in this. I'm not in this anymore. We got up in the trade at 79.5, and I was gone as soon as it got back to there. So I just didn't like the action, and I can drill down into it and just walk you through it. This was pretty clear action. Let me show you what I saw and why I did what I did. So, and this is one of the reasons why I'm trying to get to that subscriber level so that people can actually see what I'm, the trades and what I'm actually doing on YouTube. I just think YouTube's a better forum. I'm starting to really feel like YouTube's a better forum for going over this stuff. So, okay. Here's our open. Okay? And we look like we're going to be great, right? You need the rest of this. Okay. Here's your open. And we look like we're going to be great, right? We gapped down, but look what we did. And I point these out all the time. And we gap fill. Okay? As soon as we gap fill, it just rejects. That's exactly what happened. I'm just showing you a 15-minute chart. So in other words, I gapped lower, looked like I was going to keep going. I'm using a 15-minute chart and gap fill. What happened when it broke here? Right? That was it. It's time to go. And that was pretty much the trade. That was my exit strategy on this. Now, I'll say the same thing to somebody. What does this pattern look like? It looks like one of those evening star patterns, right? Bonk, bonk, undercut, go, boom. I had no idea that this was going to happen. I actually thought that it was going to go higher today. I was loaded for bear on this trade. I thought it would look great, but this happens. So you have to learn how to identify when you're wrong. Break even, move on. It happens. It's part of the game. What do you do now with it? You really can't expect to buy this with one of the single largest down bars and expect to make money right now. It's going to be very difficult. I mean, this was just set up beautifully with this volume coming in, and this is what we wound up with. So this is not something that you need to run into right now. This needs to build and set. And if you take out 74.83 and you're not out yet, that would be where I would tell you to get out. This is Twist, and this is one that we haven't looked at for a while. Got a couple more here, and then I'm going to get into these three stocks real quick that I added to the newsletter that I still think have huge opportunity despite today. So, I mean, this is pretty clear what happened today, right? You got right to the top of that wick and reject it. I mean, it's a rejection. You have an inverted hammer on the 50-day right here. So I wouldn't go near this. Here's your swing, 150. That's where you buy it. If you're long this, if you are long this and you take out this lower low, it's time to go because you have a wedge here that is setting you up for a falling rope pattern, which means that this thing could just come straight down. Just like these bars. See these bars? You're setting up for one of those. So if you break a lower low and you're in this, it's time to go. That's my opinion. Do what you want. 150 is where I would buy it. So net, I think that I think software and cloud is going to be the next ones that move along with bio, and that's going to lean a little bit, and you'll see what some of the buys were today in a minute. I'm not crazy about this. You broke the 76.80, but you're right there. You had a huge run up the other day, so you came down a little bit. So what? It rested. So what? Looks great. Just leave it alone. Where would I become concerned? Flip back into this channel, break that line, that 74 line, and you have to go. You got to get out of the way. UPST, this was one yesterday where I'm going to walk through this, the trade on the 15-minute. I walked through this trade yesterday so people could understand it, and I blew up the time frames of it. So let's get rid of this so you can we'll do a play-by-play on it. So people seem to like that yesterday. So we're going to remove this vertical line, and then we're going to, let me just figure this out real quick. Yep, we'll use these three charts. So what do I use? I use, to look at stocks during the day, I use a 1, a 15, and a 5. Sometimes I drill down in more, but if things get hairy, these are my go-tos. So what you're going to see here, and let's just go through this. And I know people want more detail. It's just hard. So let's just start here. Why won't you give me that? I'm going to go backwards. That's not going to get me far enough on this. We're going to have to do it this way. Okay. So, okay. Let's line this up. Let's get going here. All right. 935. All right. So this line will show you where we're at. We're going to have to do this a little further out than I would have liked of a 5-minute. So when I got in this the other day, I got in it right as we hit this 105 level, right in here. And I know this is somewhat hard, but we're going to try and blow it up. And it was this really little simple pattern of popping over it, right? So today when we were in it, you should probably already see where I'm going with this. We came up, right? So this is your open, okay? And then you came up, and that was it. And then we consolidated, had this little wedge, broke down. That was the end of it. But I stayed with it because of where my cost was. And I wanted to see if it could hold. Now, when it got to here, that's where I gave it. I wanted to see if it could hold this level. So when we broke right here, that was enough for me. Once this triggered here, I was out. And you can see what transpired since then. Now, if you go through on this chart, on this 15-minute, you'll just see that as a simple, doji bar, right? This is just the open, right? So if you go to, let's just move this way. You can see that move. So that's just a simple doji bar here, right? That's all that is there. Little green doji bar. And then on this one, this is on the half hour. Okay. It's just another little thin bar. Like you wouldn't think anything of it, but the significance of having all three of these charts And I can't throw RSI in here too because it'll just cloud everything. But the significance of having these charts is that when something like this happens, I might not have a signal on here or here, right? I mean, to me, look at this on the, this is holding up. Here it's not. Here it triggered. So that's why I use that. And that's just giving you an example. Now, what do you do with the stock now? What do you do with UPST right now? I got to be honest, I'm a little surprised it's back down here. I thought that we would have had some buying coming in, and we didn't get that buying. So what do we do now with it? I think you have to watch and wait here. And let's get rid of this line. I think you have to watch and wait. I don't like the close at all. If you're still in this, you have this falling wedge now from all of this that's going on right here. We don't really even need this one anymore, right? So you can see that line. I mean, it's just not doing well. So could it break this? Absolutely. It's set to break. And think about, when you don't know what's going to happen, just think about it this way. What's going to screw the most amount of people? Breaking and going lower into option expiration on Friday, right? I mean, so if you think like that, that's what you're setting up for. And you have no support when you break this. You can go down to here, or you can go to this 91 level. There's nothing here. Nothing that if this breaks, that you're going to the 50-day, 91.68. So keep that in mind. If it breaks there, it's a possible short. Fugu, this is just, here's your line, you broke out, you tried to get above it today. I actually was looking at this as a long trade today, and I didn't execute on it. And I'll show you what I was looking at. You see how you have this wedge here? We can really blow this up and get into this. This is the daily on Fubo. See this line? As soon as you got above that, you had my interest. And then it just rejected, went lower than the open, and that's not where you want to be. That's just telling you that there's possibly more pain. If you can't even get back to a level that you were currently at, it's just not a good sign. So if you're in this, a lower low, and you got to move on and just wait. Again, there's just too much pressure on it. AP, what is this one? AFL. Affleck. So I had no position in this. It looks amazing. It looks absolutely amazing. There's really nothing to say wrong with it. The only thing I would tell you is most breakouts on the first time that they rally fail. You have light volume, so this could break and then come back and give you an opportunity. But this just looks really good. Let's go to the weekly because there's some data points over here that are of interest. Let's get rid of these indicators because we really don't need them because we're basically trendless. And indicators in a trendless market are kind of, especially moving averages, they're freaking pointless. So let's put this here, put this up. And now you have this little line too. And you can see how you've broken that. And then you even tested it and bounced back through it. And now you have a wedge, and now you're breaking out of a weekly bull flag. I like this. I don't think you're going anywhere crazy with it, but I think you can get to the 55, 56 level. And I think you're fine buying it here with a stop, with a low of 51.71. Lose a buck to make 4.3. And then see if you can get to this, right? Maybe it's just starting. You don't know. Nobody knows. They can say it, but they don't. No one knows. So you could get to 55 and then here. So you have a 5-to-1 trade. I like that. I like the trade. I can understand why somebody would be in it. This is Aflac AFL. This is the last one, and then I'm going to do the 3 that I want to do real quick. And this is CPE. I mean, you have this issue right here, right? You should be able to see this and all these red bars. And I don't like when stocks do this at all. You have to be really careful of this. Look, there's a morning star. So here's what you have to watch. See this here and this here? See how I'm not even 75% up on that bar? It's really even hard to call that bullish because of how I closed on it. So that alone doesn't make me like it. Throw the indicators in and, I have even more reason not to like it now. Right? Where'd we close? Right on the 21. Who's in charge of the stock when we're below the 21? Bears are in charge. You're above the 21, the bulls are in charge. Just keep it that simple. I would be looking for a close above that right here because look at this line on CPE. Look at that line. 38.70. Boom, 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 boom. Can't close above it. 38.70 is your swing if you really want to be in this. Frankly, I wouldn't touch it until I got above this line. But if you don't have the patience and you want to be in ahead, there's your line. All right, so let's get into these three, and then we're going to wrap it up. So we're just going to start with the first. So this is a software name, okay? And I like the action I saw today. I don't like the close. I said 95.50. We're in there. Right now, could this reject? Yes, it's set up to reject. The only thing that I really still like about is we're above that 50-day, and I really like this move, and I like how we broke out of this. We're not off. Let me just show you this. We're not that far off the base breakout. So I really like that move. I assigned 3 points to it so that people don't get absolutely decimated considering what's going on in this market. It's a tough market if you're not used to trading right now. This is not an easy market. So I think we're going to flip this, and I think cloud's going to move. CLOU, look at that. I have some other names in there that I'm possibly going to add. So I like this trade, and I think this should be on your list. I think you should be watching this tomorrow in the action. A lower low on this tomorrow is going to, breaking 93 tomorrow will have me concerned. But I do. I like this. I think this has great potential. So I said to add this today at 41. And I'm just going to walk through why I said that with my 100 lines on this chart. So let's just get rid of the arrow on this because that's going to throw you all off. And if you have questions about Coinbase or anything you saw tonight, put it in the comments. I answer every single comment. I really want people's opinions on how I can make this better. The purpose of me doing this is I've been fortunate enough to make a living doing this for 20 years, and I just saw so much crap on the internet that was just false that I got involved. So see this wedge? Right, look, that was our wedge. Let's get rid of these indicators. They don't mean crap. Well, I should say they don't mean crap. They're not helpful. Right here, boom, boom, boom. What did we do? We hit it. This line was already there. It was perfect. So this is where you buy it. And then if it breaks 40, that was my point. You could get in here for $1. And you're on the lower end of this channel. Now, you have this channel up here. We don't need this vertical line, right? Because that line's showing us that we get up to here. But if I can get in here and then we consolidate and then push through, I get in here for $1. That's why I did this trade. This is a good, solid trade. This trade's still there. You can look for a trigger on a 5 or 15-minute bar pattern. If you don't know how to find those kinds of triggers, I can do videos on them and we can talk about them. This is exactly why I want like the live feed, and I can't wait to do that with the chats. But you can, it's just we're going to ramp stuff up to the next level. But you see what I'm getting at here? It's $1. Who cares from that level? And people are going to want to buy this, and institutions are going to buy this because this gives them exposure to the market on steroids. And you can see what happened here. Boom, came down, hammer. What's this called? Right? Morningstar, bonk, and then we took off. So you can see how you can look at these patterns even in 15-minute charts and how they exist and call them out. It's not hard. And then finally, the last one that we're going to go over is this one. And I was looking at this all day here, watching this break up and going, man, how am I going to buy this because I'm this high off and this is my low. I can't tell people to buy a stock with an 8-point range. And I'm, very cautious of what I put out there. The 71.60, this was exactly where I wanted to buy it. So mine came out at 73. You're down about 80 cents on the trade. Look, I think this is an excellent entry point. You undercut this line. Let me blow this trade up for you because I really like this trade. And I think this trade can really work. And I think it could work big. If the NASDAQ continues, which I do believe it will, you just had panic selling today, frankly, on the Qs with what happened with Coinbase and Riot and people, get me out. And institutions will step up in the next week and start buying again. Probably even tomorrow or on Friday. But see, you undercut this, boom, and then you flip back over it, and then you flip back over this. See how, and I pointed this out the other day, and then we'll call it a wrap. Huge wedge, smaller wedge. See how they're getting smaller? We're getting tighter and tighter. So that's what you want to see. This is setting up to me to really move. I think that this could be an absolutely huge move. If I get in here at 73, by the time I get to the 200 day, I'm at 84. So that just gives me tons of leverage. And just to understand, this is a 3x ETF, right? And if you're having trouble trading stocks because you're new, start looking at the ETFs to learn. Crawl, walk, run is what I call it. They're huge. I talk to a lot of new guys, beginners that are buying weekly options. I mean, then I get it because you want the juice, you want the return, and you can do that, but just learn first. You run right to here and you reject it, but look at this. I mean, this is setting up to go higher. We're testing it 1, 2, 3. If you test it 3 times, you're not breaking it. I mean, there's very few quadruple bottom breaks, to put it that way. So that's it in a nutshell. I hope this was informative. We gave a great game plan for tomorrow on Riot, Mara, SI. You have questions, message me, and have a great evening.